So in this video, I'm going to be showing my FX6 shoulder rig, handhelded rig, tripod rig, Franken rig, and show you guys all what I have on here, why I have some of these things on here, and when I'd be using these accessories on the rig like this. So first off, I want to show you something very important that I just discovered this year. It was actually from watching another YouTube video I'm going to link up here. But one of the main issues I've had with the FX6, and if you've seen some of my other videos on the Sony FX6, the major flaw is the top handle. And this is actually my second FX6. My first one that I use just primarily as a gimbal camera or as a B camera now. I can't use my top handle anymore. It completely does not work with the interface going into it. The audio has issues and is intermittent. I've never sent it into Sony to be repaired that way. I haven't had the time to do that, but I just went out and purchased a second FX6. I had a good friend that we were sharing another FX6 together, but it just made sense for me to lease a second FX6. I have a video about leasing equipment and why I think that's the best way to do it for cameras. So I went out and got one just mainly so I can have this audio top handle as well as having a second camera. But the issue is when you start mounting stuff to the handle, the way it connects and the audio connector to it doesn't allow it to be that robust and that safe, and it can always become loose and it feels strange putting all this tension and stuff on here. So a company called Small Tangerine, they make this top plate for the FX6, and they also make this arm so you can extend your eyepiece here and you can have a different way of working with your eyepiece. I can move this around a bit here. I can get it out farther than I can normally with the Sony FX6. I can move it around a bit more. But what it has is this piece here. So it's screwed in the top handle here that goes down to the bottom plate here. And this allows for this to be super rigid. Okay, this little piece here. It seems like a really small thing. It's the only company I've seen that's doing this. And it allows this to be rigid and not be moving around. And I don't have to worry about putting stuff on the top of the handle that way. Really big deal for me. So happy to find that. And you can see that they use NATO rails on a bunch of these bright tangerine stuff here. So I'm able to attach another NATO rail onto this to put on a monitor on the top there on the front. That works great. And then I can also have my EVF here, the EVF, which is the Zacuto EVF adapter for your regular monitor. So I can flip this up quickly and I can be using touch focus on this. If I was doing a handheld like this, I could be in here using touch focus, looking at the monitor at the top. And that's the way I could use that. I could have this with the Easy Rig on here to help me if I'm doing handheld, kind of like chest level. This is the way I shoot a lot handheld. It's just kind of like at my kind of chest or waist level, especially for B-roll with a Easy Rig. I can move that around, have a hand on the follow focus and hand on the grip here, and be getting this pushed against my body and be really tight and sturdy with that. This Zacuto eyepiece is really overpriced for what it is, but I've had these before on my FX9. I had it on my FS7 before. I found them much better than the Sony ones. The Sony doesn't make one for the FX6. But this one works really great. So the big benefit of this is just being able to get my, face into an eye onto something and to be looking at that when it's really bright sunlight. So whether in a tripod or handheld or if it's shoulder rigged, I'll show you my shoulder rig configuration in a minute here. It just helps for another piece of contact as well when you're doing stuff that way. And I just like the way an EVF works to kind of immerse you in the footage, but sometimes being able to check stuff on a monitor depending. So again, I think it's pretty overpriced, but it does its job. From there, we'll go back down to the bottom here. I just have some small rigs, rail adapters on here, or just for putting the rails on. I have some 15 mil rails on here, then a simple SmallHD, small rigs, SmallHD and small rigs. Small rigs. They're follow focus on here. Right now, I'm just have the Tamron 35 to 105, 35 to 150 lens on here. Been using this a bunch lately. F2.0 at 35 to 2.8 at 150. I'm going to do another review and talk about this lens later. It's been out for a few years, but really versatile lens to get on things. Get some, big variety between different focal lengths. Then I have the Tilta Mirage matte box. So, and I am using this. I have a 1/8 Pro Mist filter in there. And I could pop another filter in there if I wanted to put a polarizer in here as well, or anything else. I don't use a variable ND because I have the variable NDs built into the camera, which I think is far more superior to using it the other way. Going to the back of the camera then, this top piece here on the top handle here, this little accessory, put it on here. This is from Kondor Blue. So this is one of their FX6 attachments. I like the way this was. I can able to put some other things on here. On the back here, I have a cold shoe mount, and I have here a Tentacle sync, a timecode generator. If you don't know what a timecode generator is, it's very useful, especially on multicam things, or leaving it on a shoot shortly for a few weeks that we'll be doing the audio on multiple cameras separately. So we'll all be running timecode on our cameras to make sure they're all synced that way. So this is, I can just put my Tentacle sync on here that goes BNC down into my timecode in. I then have my monitor, as you can see up here, on a nano rail, but I can move this pretty easily if I want to change the position of it. And because there's a nano rail on the top of this Kondor Blue top handle attachment, I'm able to put it on here and I can move this around. Sometimes I won't really have room in here because I'll be having an attachment here for my Easy Rig. So in that case, typically I'm using this up front on here, and I kind of like the way that balances anyways. And it's a SmallHD Indy 7 monitor on here with a SmallRigs cage on it. Working great, really great for anybody who's used the SmallHD monitors, knows their page system is really great to go through all your different looks and different settings and different things you can have configured, and quickly go through different things to look at different aspect ratios or different LUTs on your footage, different exposure tools. Works very well. So super happy with the SmallHD monitor there. I have that it's going in SDI to it, then SDI out to this wireless transmitter. So depending on the job, there might be a director's monitor where they want to be seeing the images, or a client monitor. So this is a wireless transmitter out of that. Don't always use this, but some jobs I do. So showing that on here if I was kind of using everything on the camera. The next thing I would do would be putting if I'm doing my own audio, I have a cold shoe adapter here, and I can put on my Rode Wireless Pro onto here and then go XLR into the camera. And I'm also looking and waiting for my DJI Mic 2 with their attachment, so I can put that straight into the cold shoe or the hot shoe and get that information without using a cable on the FX6 here. Then moving to the back of the camera, I have a Tilta. No, sorry, this is a wooden camera. So it's all different manufacturers on here. This is the wooden camera's V-mount plate. What I liked about this is that it allowed me still having room to put another battery in here, so I can hot swap this without causing any issues on the camera itself. It won't turn off the camera. I have another smaller Sony battery in there. I like the way it can be configured there. This is kind of the meat and kind of basis of this whole rig here, but I'll show you right now how I would use this in a handheld scenario. Okay, so this would be my shoulder rig configuration. This is how I can shoot this kind of easily on my shoulder. It's balanced pretty well. Typically have my hand over here on the handle extension here. This is a SmallRigs extension with a SmallRigs thing, so I can put the FX6 handle onto here. And then sometimes have my hand on the follow focus, just kind of have another place of contact there. And then my eye on the eyepiece on the EVF here with the, and that allows me to have another place of contact, and I can kind of shoot shoulder rigged like this, shoulder mounted for quite a long period of time. I can tuck my body in here and do very well with this kind of scenario, and move it quite quickly to get into a lower position too, to shoot it kind of from the hip as well. What I'm using on the bottom here is another SmallRig's VTC plate. So it's an adapter for a shoulder mount to a VTC plate for your tripod, which is a different way of mounting to a tripod, more ENG style kind of tripod plate that you would use quite a bit. Something I still like using a lot. It does add a bunch of weight to the camera, but this then has a shoulder pad on it, and then it has the airy rosettes on here, which I can mount the arm to here. This is a pretty short arm, but I like kind of using that for myself. Some people prefer a longer arm to have their arms out farther when they're going shoulder mounted with a camera. I do not mount it up here. There's some companies that are making it where you can put a rosette up here, you can put an airy rosette on here. I move that down. I've heard some things about that and some issues where this is not designed to have that much leverage on it, and these been breaking off some FX6s, so just to caution about that. This is my setup for shoulder rig. I don't shoot this way a ton. It's not my favorite way to shoot. It's not my favorite way to cover things, but if it's long handheld things for a client where you got to do handheld interviews, kind of eye level, this is one of the most convenient ways to go and to kind of be shooting that way all day. But for myself, when I'm doing a lot of handheld and documentary style work, I prefer to be shooting from kind of my chest level and using an easy rig or just holding the camera against myself that way, which I wouldn't be using the side handle, and I wouldn't be using this VTC plate with the shoulder pad on here. Now this whole rig, when it's done like this, and even without that, is quite a bit heavier than a regular FX6 or just a not built out FX6. A lot heavier. The FX6 itself is a very, very light camera, super light. So this changes that quite a bit and makes it way heavier. And if you've seen some of my past videos talking about bigger cameras, rigs, I actually prefer a larger camera rig or a heavier camera rig when I'm doing handheld work. Reason being for that is I find it to be more steady. Seems like a weird thing, but I find when you're especially like a DSLR, trying to hold a DSLR steady or a mirrorless camera steady, it is hard without having some other way to do it because it just doesn't have the weight to it. When you have something with some substantial weight, you can actually find ways to hold it more steady. It just kind of balances better and it just feels better that way. You have some kind of weight around it. I'm explaining this very poorly, but for me, a heavier camera, not crazy heavy, but a handheld rig that has sufficient weight to it is easier for me to hold steady on a shot, like a rig like this, than a not built out FX6 rig at all. I find it a little bit harder to hold as steady. You got to do some stuff where I'm pushing it against the body, but then it's too close to me and the monitor is right there. This with the V-mount plate, I can have this against my body. If I have the handle here on the camera, this against my body here, pushing that against me gives me a little more depth on the camera. I just find it a way better way to work. There is a lot of attachments, a lot of things on here, and there's quite a bit of extra cost to building a camera here. So it's definitely not something you need to do, but these are all things on here that I would use sometimes. I'm using all of it. This shoot I'm going up to, leaving to go overseas for in the next week or so, I'll be using basically all of this stuff like this. Some other shoots, I might be tearing this down a bit more and make it a little bit simpler. Probably wouldn't be using the Tentacle sync if I'm doing my own audio and stuff that way, and I'm not doing a multi-camera shoot. If it's just myself directing and shooting on a job, which is a lot of jobs I do, I wouldn't be using a wireless monitor as well, so I'll be taking that off of it. Otherwise, configuration stays pretty much the same. But thanks so much, guys, for watching this video. Let me know if you have any questions, any comments about some of the things I have built up on this rig. What are your favorite accessories and your must-have accessories for your FX6? Let's all kind of make comments there, kind of help each other out. If you like the video, please think of giving me a thumbs up. And please think about subscribing to the channel. It all really does help to me to create more content and get more stuff out to you guys. I really want to create stuff that's going to be worthwhile for you to watch, not just camera reviews, stuff that's kind of real, working world, using these cameras, tips, advice, and just thoughts that way for you guys. So we'll see you guys on the next one.